Yo, what's going on, people? Raps on TV, here to talk the biggest and best things in boxing, as per usual. This week, I'm here with my co-hosts, Tom and Rafi. How you doing, guys?
Yeah, great, man. Yourself?
Good. I was going to say, don't all rush at once.
Too eager, man. Too eager.
So you guys enjoy the bank holiday weekend? Get a little carnival wine, a bit of jerk chicken.
Yeah, man, definitely.
I was going to say pure silence now. How was the weekend for you guys, though?
I'll let you go on this one, Raf.
Still the revision, man, but made time for the boxing. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, it was good. Like you said there, Coach, Carnival was, spread across London. Good way to end the summer, as to say. But I think we're going to get one of those Indian summers this year. I think it's going to be hot right through to October, and again bringing the heat with the podcast every Tuesday.
I love that. And I know, Tom, you were down in Bournemouth causing havoc and mayhem. So yeah, keep doing you, young lads.
A bit of scouting down at the local gyms, doing a bit of scouting. Just
I like that.
If I can see any young prospects coming through to bring on the podcast, that was the main intention for that weekend.
No worries. We believe you, Tom. We believe you. So listen, guys, obviously this weekend, and I'll quickly run into the agenda. Pretty short. The boxing season is kind of back upon us. So we saw last weekend, Anthony Yarde go over to Chelyabinsk, Russia, and take on Sergey Kovalev. So we'll get into that in better detail. We're also going to pick apart the Lomachenko versus Campbell clash, which is taking place in London's O2 Arena. Quite a packed undercard if you look at the bouts and what they mean. So you've got Josh Buatsi, who's challenging for for WBA international light heavyweight title. You got Fury, that's Huey Fury against Alexander Povetkin. So you don't know what could come from that.
Fight.
It should be a good fight. And you got Charlie Edwards defending his belt again. So looking like a decent night of boxing. And we'll definitely be getting into that further ado. Guys, just want to remind you, and if I don't repeat it, I will try. Calls will be answered from 8 p.m. So from 8 p.m. we will get the lines open and we'll try to get as many callers through as possible. I'm sure you're all going to drop everything you're doing and rush to get on the line right now. So guys, no better place to start than Chelyabinsk and the matter of lost luggage, no hot water. The view, a kind of cheap travel lodge looking hotel, a view of a park or a forest. Guys, obviously last week, Yarde travelled to Russia to take on the killer, and that's factual, Sergey Kovalev. What did we make, and before we get into the fight, what did you guys make of the build-up in terms of the promotion last week, in terms of the open workouts, the weigh-in, the press conferences? I mean, is there anything that stood out for you before the actual fight took place?
I think the promotion, you could argue was a bit lackluster in terms of being so close to the fight. There wasn't really much to kind of take from the promotional side of things, but I think kind of everything speaks for itself on the night. The fight lived up to expectation. Anthony Yarde put up a valiant effort in Chelyabinsk, in Kovalev's backyard. Kovalev brought that experience, that ruggedness, that world title elite level credentials, I suppose, in the fight, and got the business done. I think it was quite a brutal finish to the fight. I think, if anything, probably Yarde was a bit fatigued when it came to the 11th round. Probably took a...
Hey, we're not talking about the fight yet, Tom. I'm talking about the pre-build-up. Slow down.
Sorry. Yeah, no, but so I suppose to keep it short, the promotion is what it was. It's out in Russia. You're not expecting it to be, a red carpet stage. It's a fight, and I thought they handled it well. I think the press conference was good. Tunde got his chance to speak. Yarde was in good spirits. So I think everything kind of materialised and marinated into being a good spectacle.
Good.
Yeah, I'd echo that. The other thing I'd probably say is that I think that given how muted it had been in the UK, I think Kovalev's party did really well in Russia, because you saw it was a full house and Russia seemed to be really up for it. But UK side, it was quite lackluster in that BT Sport were only promoting the fight 3 days out, which was quite surprising to me, because Yarde is their flagship fighter. The whole face of their franchise is built around Anthony Yarde. Daniel Dubois may be the heavyweight face of Frank Warren's stable, but everything was geared towards Anthony Yarde. So it was a little bit surprising to see. And we've seen fights like Warrington, Frampton, fair enough, that was pay-per-view, get around about 2 weeks worth of non-stop airtime for adverts and whatnot. But for Yarde Kovalev to get 3 days, it left a sour taste in my mouth personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you've both made some really good points there. I think one thing I would say, and I think you're both right in terms of the promotion, probably in Russia they did a bit more, but one thing I liked kind of leading up to the fight, which I don't usually do, and I'm just going to say it, but usually I don't fall into this whole, he's a British fighter, let's back him, yada yada yada, but I felt this time around, I felt that Yarde got a lot of support. I think that definitely kind of, look, I predicted, we know what the result was, but I predicted Yarde to stop him. But I think overall it was just really good to see sort of like so much support coming in for him. A lot of people, whether you call it rivals, whether you call it, opposition promoters or stables, they were even sending him messages of good luck, best wishes. And I think that was a good thing for us to see.
Physically there?
Say that again?
What about the support physically there? Do you think that lived up to expectation?
No, I don't. I doubt. Look, I doubt. I don't know who's got that tickering in the background noise, but let's just control that. For me, I think there was definitely not going to be enough support for him there because of the location. I don't even know how you would have started to get flights there. He probably had his close family. I believe his sister was there, his close friends, but you're not talking of a Joshua invasion of New York, Joshua fans invasion. I think this one was always going to be very minimal, similar to Fury and when he beat Klitschko in Dusseldorf. Some of those locations, you get your true fans, but not all, and that doesn't mean to say they're not your true fans, but not everyone can make that.
Yeah. I think it's probably also, and I'm not going to play this wildcard too early, but it could also be a race wildcard as well, because Anthony Yarde and Tunde Ajayi were the only 2 black guys on that plane, and they were the only 2 guys who had their luggage come late, and I don't know if that would have acted as a deterrent to other people to then not turn up. But
you would have bought your flight already, no? That would have happened on the Monday, so I don't think you would have waited last minute. The visa process for Russia, that's not going to prevent anybody. Obviously they were the only black guys, but I think it was is less of that, but more the opposition, in my personal opinion. I think, whether it had been Nathan Cleverly that was going over to Russia to fight him, and they would have lost his luggage as well. So I think that was just more a bit scold. Exactly, that's the standard skullduggery of for the away fighter.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I guess
and it didn't end there, did it? The hotel.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's a point I think we want to talk about. So, Rafi, do you want to just lay out kind of like the challenges that they had early on?
Yeah, they turned up at the hotel and everything was pre-booked, as it would be. And there was no cold water in Anthony Yarde's room. He then rang up the receptionist and the hotel staff and said, "There's no hot water in my room." They went there, and after the first test, they concluded that, right, there's something wrong with the water in his room, and they promised him that he would be re-roomed and that there would be no issues there. He went to another room on another floor, and it was the exact same story.
Yeah.
And having spoken to other people in the hotel, and when I say having spoken to, I refer to Anthony's team, there was nothing wrong with their water temperature or anything, so it does make you think, doesn't it?
Yeah, hello?
Hello?
Yeah, Rafi?
Hello?
Yep.
Hello? Yeah, Raf can hear you.
Yeah, you cut out there, mate.
Yeah, no worries, but it doesn't bode particularly well, does it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's to be expected, right? But I will say, I think for me, what was refreshing about, we saw a lot of the interviews from the IFL guys out there, and I think what was refreshing was Yarde wasn't really moaning, he wasn't being a diva, like he was letting us know this is what's going on, but he wasn't throwing his top, throwing his toys at the pram saying, I'm not fighting if you don't get this, if you don't do that, if you don't do this. He was pretty...
Yeah.
I was actually, if I'm being honest, I was actually a bit worried for him because I thought he was taking in his stride too much in terms of people just coming in around him, just doing stuff and showing you this and showing you that. Yeah, I don't know, but again, he's the pro. They've been around it, so I think that was really good because I think we're going to talk about the performance and the fight as a whole, but I do think he's won himself a lot of credit all round. So now, obviously, moving on to the fight. Sorry, carry on, Tom.
As well, I think he remained quite professional. Like with all this bravado with the luggage, the hot water. Because I understand fighters when they're trying to make a limit of 175 pounds or however heavy the light heavyweight limit is. You're going to need your bath to sweat out a certain amount of weight, or you're going to need certain conditions where it needs to be mandatory to meet requirements. There was a weigh-in in the morning, and then there was a weigh-in in the afternoon. Whatever the reason, what was behind that, I'm not too sure. But I suppose, like you said, Coach, it's out in Chelyabinsk. You're not really going to get anything, the same you would on your home turf. It's all going to be stacked against you. There's going to be certain precautions that they're going to take to ensure that the away fighter is not given the same luxuries. And I just think that the whole mindset and mentality that they carried over into Russia was superb, because they didn't really make a meal of things. You see a lot of fighters when, like for example, Billy Joe Saunders went out to Montreal to fight David Lemieux. Dominic Ingle wasn't happy about the scales that they were using at the weigh-in, and that just kind of put into perspective how Yarde's not had the experience at elite level. He's not even fought anyone near the caliber of Kovalev. Had to deal with the fight week commitments, had to deal with the hostility with being in Russia, and he was given a lot of love. So that kind of counteracts the point that it's an away fighter, it's a British fighter going to Russian soil. Would there be any animosity? I don't think there was. I think that they were treated fairly, and again, they didn't make a meal of things. So I think just kind of putting that all to the side, it made for a fair fight. It made for a fair, treatment of both parties, and both parties dealt with it the way it should be, professionally.
And it makes the contrast, because how Tyson Fury, for example, he wasn't happy with the ring. I think it was the carpet or the layering behind it, and that was the day before the fight. He threatened to pull out. So given that this was a few days before the fight, and it wasn't just a one-off, it was from the airport to the hotel and everything in between. He had his reasons to pull out if we use Fury as a benchmark, but he didn't. So he has to be commended for that.
Exactly, and I think ultimately, and you guys are right there. So let's get into the fight. I think everyone that's listening now would definitely know what the result is. So there's no shame in kind of saying Yarde lost, which is factual. I guess the key thing is let's kind of dissect where, when I say surprise, I think, could you see the knockout coming as the fight was going on, or did you think Yarde would at least finish on his feet?
I think Yarde probably fatigued, like I mentioned, kind of as the rounds went on. I thought both men came into the fight at a frantic pace, really, because like when the bell went, both were on their toes. They were throwing feints. They were moving. They were bopping their head. They were weaving. They were looking for shots for either man to draw them in to make a counter. And I think Anthony Yarde, although he didn't probably win any of the first, I'd say 6-7 rounds, from what I saw, I thought Kovalev controlled the pace and the distance, and I thought his jab was exceptional. I didn't expect Kovalev to have such a punishing jab, especially when we saw him against Ward, against Alvarez. He didn't even seem like he threw his jab in those fights. He didn't even seem existent that he was willing to throw the multiplicity of jabs that he did throw. And I thought against Yarde he would be a bit more cautious, cagey early on. That was the complete opposite. Kind of took me by surprise. And Kovalev then kind of went through the gears, broke him down with some painful body shots. Besides the 8th round, I thought Yarde looked like he was going to get him out of there. Maybe 20-30 seconds later, it could have been a whole different story. We could be sitting there talking about one of the biggest, even within the fight, biggest comebacks of any British fighter, because he was down on the cards significantly. And again, Kovalev showed that experience, showed that class, and that's what probably got him over the line.
Yeah, I think the writing probably was on the wall around 30 seconds after the end of the 8th, because you could see that Yarde had emptied the tank, and going forward from there, you could tell in that first 30 seconds that was it. He was spent, and it was only a matter of time. So I think the knockout was on the cards, but it was only until the 8th that it looked like happening.
Yeah, I just caught fire after that, really. Like the 8th round onwards, it was like back, forth, didn't know what was going on. Commentary was like, through the roof. We didn't know whether or not, Kovalev looked tired. We saw that in the Alvarez fight. He looked like a man that couldn't even stand on his own two legs. And to kind of turn around the 8th round and, move it on to the 9th, the 10th and the 11th. I mean, just kind of a question to pose to you both. Do you think that world level credentials kind of got him over that phase of adversity to weather the storm and come back?
World level credentials, to some extent, I think it mainly lies within the experience. And whether he'd fought at elite level, or even world level at all, I don't think that comes into play so much. I think it's more the sense that if you're a domestic level fighter and you're 35, you've seen a lot in that time. And if you're up against someone who's in their late 20s but a world level fighter, even though they operate at a higher level, they'll be, through your experience, you'll learn things, regardless of whatever level you operate at, that you always have over the other guy. So I think it probably leans more towards experience than pedigree, but that's just how I see it.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. Coach, how do you see it?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Because I would say I think there's definitely examples in boxing where you could say, probably not domestic level, but I would say guys at operating at world level that are probably not viewed as technically gifted as others, but they have the experience to kind of old man them and school them. I think the best example would be Salido against Lomachenko. I think Salido's experience served him well to kind of just get through the rounds against Lomachenko, and Lomachenko didn't understand how to apply pressure. I do think the world level played its part, but not just by credentials. I think via his ability, the mindset. So as you said, when he looked like he was out. I really thought Yarde was going to get it in the 8th. But as Rafi said, towards the end, I knew that I think everything had gone. You could see it, in my opinion. And I think from Kovalev's point of view, I think it was the little things, the clinching, just rather than, just being up close, getting a bit of distance, blocking that body shot, which was clearly painful for him. I think definitely it's the experience that got him rounds, that got him through the fight. And I would say also clearly Yarde's lack of an experience, because unless it was a case of he had nothing left, rather than let it all go in the 8th, I think he could have sustained it a bit more, so up the pressure a bit in the 8th, made himself a bit more elusive and not get hit, and then in the 9th follow up the same thing, and then by the 10th, potentially he's worked enough of Kovalev's body and gassed him out that he could get the win. But, it was a valiant effort, but I think, for me, I think Kovalev's clearly experience and everything, his amateur pedigree, saw him through this. Rafi, you got... Oh.
No, I was just agreeing with what you said about, the pedigree seeing him through in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a question for you guys would be, do you think Yarde should switch promoter? Because the biggest fighter in the division are Bivol, well, actually is the obvious one, we'll come on to that in a bit, but Bivol, Beterbiev, Callum Johnson, I'm going to butcher his name, but I can spell it, but I can never pronounce it. Gavodzic, him, all of those guys are the zone fighters, and the only avenue into the zone is either signing up directly or Eddie's door. And Uncle Frank is never going to do a show with her, and we all know that. So maybe he should follow Billy Joe Saunders' footsteps and join his former. What do you guys think?
What do you think,
I
Tom?
I agree. I think that you kind of took the words out of my mouth, really, with the Billy Joe Saunders thing. I agree. I think Yarde could possibly consider the transition to Matchroom, but I think it's too early to make that decision. I think he's only 18, 19 fights into his career. He's come off a world level defeat. Look for example, Charlie Edwards, who we're going to come on to talk about. In his 11th fight, he fought Casemiro. That was with Matchroom. Matchroom were building him up to be the next big star. I know there's a massive gap between sort of breaching that world level between flyweights and light heavyweights, but the same model kind of applies here, because if you're a fighter that's young and fresh and is willing to put it on the line, then it doesn't really matter what promoter you're with, because at the end of the day, if you're willing to take a lesser portion of the pie to fight for a world title, which I believe Kovalev did get the majority of the purse, which is obviously expected. He's a much more seasoned fighter. Then I wouldn't expect him to move from Warren. I think BT Sport have got the perfect platform for Yarde. We see with Dubois, I wouldn't be surprised if Dubois and Yarde were matched together and would be work side by side to build shows in the UK, to build shows in the US, and maybe for someone of a lower understanding, maybe Frank Warren's son or someone else might come on board and think, well, how can I transcend BT Sport? How can I make them a global phenomenon? And I think that's probably the route they're going to go down. But I think, just to answer your question quickly, Raf, I think if I was in Yarde's position and I was to choose a promoter, I would probably go with top rank ESPN, because they've got the Gavozic's of the world, they've got the Baturbievs, and I know he works with Matchroom, but I think there's a lot more leverage with a US promoter, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to say great points, Tom. I mean, I think it's quite split in the sense of, you speak about the competition, but again, yes, Gavozdik and Baturbiv they are top rank fighters. So I think there's definitely that element. There's obviously the deal that he's got from the US in terms of the ESPN exposure. I guess my first point would be to say, I think I wouldn't leave Warren in order to fight further title shots, because I think he needs to go back to the drawing board a little bit. I think we'll come on to what he could do next. So I think he needs to go back to sort of like the drawing board just a little bit and just start working on a few things. It's highly rumoured he didn't even spar for this, and I was like, come on, don't even let that as a rumour be kind of circulated, whether it's true or not. So I think for me, exactly, I know he has sparred. So for me, I think I don't know whether he needs to make that kind of decision now after this loss. And the second thing as well is, would Eddie Hearn even be interested in him, really? And I'm saying that in a sense of, okay, maybe it's a bit of filler, but I think if you look at, like you said, he's got Bivol, he's got Buatsi. I think it was, if Yarde had won, I don't think he would have been rushing to face any of those guys. Even though we know he faced Kovalev, it was about the timing on that factor. So for me, I think it's a good question. One that I don't think, because everyone's talking about the trainer, but I don't think. From a promoter point of view, I think he's still got to. I think he can still sit with Frank Warren. Frank Warren can still build his name in the UK. He has done so relatively well at the moment. Not to say Warren Matchroom can't do a better job, but I think there's no real need at the moment. I think stick to where you are now, regroup, come back again, and then see. I was going to say, Tom, you got a question?
I was just going to... sorry, go on, sorry.
No, go on, mate.
No, I was just literally going to just ask, looking at, obviously, we've seen with fighters in the past, they take a defeat. Do you think they should make, some sort of thought about changing trainers? Obviously, we know the relationship that Yarde and Tunde have together. Would you be surprised if Yarde was to maybe have an amicable split with Tunde, or do you think that bond is too strong to breach on business terms?
Well, they definitely don't see each other as professional colleagues. They're very close friends.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of stuff behind closed doors that you, me, coach, and no one else can have any idea about. So I think it's more so the fact that this is quite deep in that he's the guy, I don't know if he's the guy who took him off the streets, but he's definitely the guy who got him into boxing. And Yarde was involved in a lot of trouble when he was younger, owing to his environment. You're a product of your environment. It wasn't his fault. And not for sentimental reasons, but when someone gives you a platform, whatever you do, whatever happens from there onwards, you're always going to remember who put you on the map.
Yes. And
that's why I think this is more than just a business decision. I don't know if you feel the same way, Coach.
I think I definitely agree with you on that in terms of, I think what we're talking about here is a bit of loyalty, and I think, and I said this earlier, I think what Tunde has done for Yarde, I think, Yarde will forever be indebted to him. But I will say it doesn't mean if he ever needed to change, it doesn't mean he couldn't change, because similar to what Lewis said against Joshua, you are talking about going from preschool to primary school, secondary school, and then moving to university level with the same teacher from nursery. So I think there's nothing wrong with having that in your background as your reference point, somebody that, you know, you've got an honest relationship with. But I think, if I'm being honest, I don't think he should change train. I do think, however, they should change the structure or the regime, i.e. bring in some other people, bring in some other factors, because we don't know. One of the most impressive things for me, I have to say, was the height difference. I, for whatever reason, just believed that Kovalev would tower over Yarde, but he didn't. He was looking eye to eye with him. But you look at the frames of the two fighters, two different things. Everyone would have said, look at Yarde's frame, look at Yarde's frame. But Kovalev came in with the right frame, similar as Buatsi. So I think they need to be able to work on losing a bit of muscle, to be able to increase the stamina output, in my opinion. But I don't think he should leave Tunde. I think Tunde can learn a little bit, because no matter what, I got a lot of time for Tunde, a lot of love for Tunde. But if you're going to say that your fighter's got a better skill set than Andre Ward, then he has to display that. And Yarde didn't display that. So I think he's going to have to hold a bit of corn and just maybe, when I say humble himself, it's great that he's confident. It's great that he's got these beliefs. But I think just probably slow down on the wild statements, because I think when you lose, I think that's where everyone's saying all this shit about he should leave, he should drop him. I don't believe in that.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, so that's just my take. I don't know, Tom, what do you think about that? Should he stay, go?
Yeah, I think it's more so about reevaluating his role. I think Tunde, as much as he's got the charisma, he's got the confidence, he's not the fighter. Although it would be far to say he's the mouthpiece of the camp. I think he's intellectual. I think he's got a lot of knowledge about the sport. But I think when you're looking at someone of Andre Ward's pedigree or Kovalev's pedigree, there's no comparison there. I mean, no disrespect, I've got a lot of time for both of them. But there's levels, and I think not levels because I think Anthony Yarde's a worse fighter than Kovalev. I just think at the time he's not had the experience. I'm not saying that Yarde can't be a world champion. I firmly think he will be a world champion. But you look at the crop of light heavyweights, and I mean, it's a tough division. Yeah. You've got Beterbiev, who punches like a mule. You've got Bivol, who's as crafty as your Lomachenko of the light heavyweight division. You know, his speed, his movement, and I think then Gavozic is just an animal. Like we saw what he did to Stevenson. Badu Jack again is another fighter. You've got Joshua Buatsi. The list
Don't forget Gilberto Ramirez has now come up, so he's in there.
Ramirez, exactly. So it's a tough division, coach, and I think you guys will probably echo as well that you're not going to be handed easy world title shots in this day and age. Charlie Edwards has got a tough mandatory in Martinez. I think that what's so positive about boxing at the moment is not because it's driven by money, not just because it's driven by exposure and profile, but the competition within each division, I think, is through the roof. Every division is stacked.
I wouldn't say every division though, mate, but I'd definitely say light heavyweight is up there. The light heavyweight is definitely a stacked one. Light heavyweight is crazy.
I'm kind of with Tom on this, because most of them are.
I mean, that's why it's great.
Most of them are.
I mean, if I said to you, okay, cruiserweight, give me 10 names or 5 names, so it turns a bit much. But I agree with
you. I think the cruiserweight division is buzzing. You've got a Coley, you've got Isaac Chamberlain, you've got Chris Billam-Smith. Reactful domestically, I think it's buzzing.
Yeah, I think world levels there is a big gap, and I do agree with you, coach. I think you could probably name 4 or 5 divisions where the level of world class fighters isn't there. Yeah. That's understandable. You compare the welterweight division to the light middleweight division. There is no comparison there in terms of world level. Yeah. Or if you compare the super flyweight division to say the middleweight division, there is definitely an order there. There is
but there's some stacks, and that's the thing. Like the welterweight, even lightweight. I mean, welterweight now. Maurice Hooker just said he's stepping up to welterweight. He can't do 140 anymore, so that's going to be interesting. I know he lost, but that was a great fight. I mean, even the names you forgot. Even when you look at light heavyweight, don't forget Marcus Brown, who just lost to Jean Pascal. So, Pascal puts his name in there after beating Marcus Brown. So I think light heavyweight is seriously stacked. And there's no two ways about that. And I guess one of the things I wanted to say, and let's just kind of talk on before we start opening up the lines. The 8th round, guys, talk me through how you were feeling watching the 8th round when you really saw that Kovalev was on wobbling.
I lost my voice. I was screaming up and down. I think Richard React posted something online as well that he lost his voice. I was buzzing. I genuinely thought he'd done it because do you remember when Kovalev dropped his hands? This was around about the last 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And he was backing up towards I think it was his own corner, and his hands were down. That's when I thought, you know what, this is only 2 seconds away from the legs buckling, and then another 3 seconds away from him being on the canvas. And I don't know if you guys heard, but his corner, I didn't see this, but they had a towel in their hand ready to throw in.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's mad.
Have you guys heard that? Online?
First I've seen it. I definitely heard something on Twitter the day after about considering pulling Yarde out, but I never heard about the Kovalev. That's crazy. That's mad.
Yeah. That should be, man. How about you, Coach?
Yeah, and Tom, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I couldn't believe it. I don't think. I mean, especially someone of Kovalev's nature and stature, I didn't think that even trainers. I know they put the well-being of fighters first. You know, Kovalev has had some hard fights, and I think, especially a young, hungry lion like Yarde, who punches reasonably hard. Obviously, I've never felt one of those punches, so I can't say exactly how hard he hits, but you know. Yeah, no, I think it's a bit of a surprise though. Like I wouldn't have expected Kovalev to have given up or be pulled out. So no, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, I did hear that Buddy McGirt was looking to do that. Or he said to him, "If you don't show me something in this round, I'm pulling you out as well." So I mean, I think, and that's why I say, you know, overall, I think Yarde can't be criticised because it didn't happen. But could you just imagine that's how the fight ended? And we're talking about Yarde as the new WBO champion, and he stopped Kovalev. And then everything, in my opinion, would like, because I felt as much as what you were saying is true. I felt Kovalev was ahead on the cards, but I didn't think the rounds were like total domination. I felt Yarde was doing what he was trying to do. I feel their game plan was to kind of try to do neat head movement and then hit him with more body shots and power shots as opposed to being effective with the jab. That's why the stat that came out was said he's hit Kovalev the most out of the fighters. Fair enough, he didn't win, but it showed that he was active. So, yeah, like you guys, I mean, I was going up and down. I was like, oh my God, like, fucking get in. Fucking do it. Yeah, but I'll be honest, as soon as the round finished, I don't know, something, I just looked at Yarde and I was like, he's done it all. And I just think that's where he's going to learn. So I think he's done a great job. I think kind of the I won't say the romance, but the kind of feedback afterward has been fantastic. So for me, I think he's done a great job, and I think, you know, we've got to take our hats off to him. So guys, look, it's 8 o'clock or just gone 8. So I'm going to open up the lines. We've got 734. The floor is yours. Hello.
Yo, what's good, people?
Yes, what's going on, Dwayne? Long time, you good?
Yes, not too bad, man. It was like a reunion calling up.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was alright, you know. Yeah, I went on the Sunday. Not the Monday thing, but yeah, I was pretty blessed though. They shut that shit down too early though. I was kind of pissed. I was just starting to get into the vibe.
I'm telling you, it's not like old days, but you still took 1-2 rum, yeah?
Yeah, damn right. I had 2 bottles filled with fucking rare nephew straight from Jamaica.
Nice, that authentic. I love it.
Yeah, no.
With a glass of ice, yeah?
Nah, I didn't have the ice, I can't lie. I didn't have the ice, but...
So, what's on your mind, bro? Question or statement?
It's always a statement with me, man. I think...
It's all good?
Okay. They were controversial, you know.
Nah.
But yeah, I think it was kind of like the equivalent to watching Eubank Jr. fighting Billy Joe, but the difference was that Billy Joe wasn't at world level. Where I think that what Yarde showed was natural ability, potential, but not the right boxing IQ for that level.
Yes.
I like the comparison you made.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? It's kind of similar to that.
Yes.
I could round it off in a complimentary manner.
Nah, man, speak your mind, bro. Don't worry about that. But speak your mind. But I think that's a great comparison in that sense of where Yarde is at and what Eubank's gone on to do.
Yeah, and this is the thing where seniors should get some credit because there's certain points where senior have made sure that junior avoided certain fights. Like there was a point where I believe, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was meant to fight someone.
Yeah, it was an English world level and the Triple G fight as well.
Yeah, Senior's like, because Senior realised that, you know what, Junior's not quite ready, so how can I steer him away from dangerous fights but not let the brand look bad? And that's why I think that Tunde went a bit wrong, because it's like he started to believe the hype himself. He was the hype man that fell into his own hype. Like what I heard you saying earlier, I think it was you, Coach, where he was talking about, I think it was Tom actually, one of you guys said that they were starting to make comments that he's better than Andre Ward and all this. It's like, yo, come on, man, stop that.
Exactly.
You know? It's all well and good, like promoting and having belief in your guy. You should have that, but there's no need to make absurd comparisons or ludicrous statements, because you line yourself up for the fall. And if there wasn't all this extra gas behind him, I think he would have had. I don't think he would be getting slated as much on social media or by certain boxing fans. There's more to do with a lot of people, in my opinion. They've watched the whole Mayweather thing, and everyone's took that approach, but. The difference with Mayweather and McGregor and Junior and all of these guys is Mayweather was backing that shit up in the ring. You know? If you're going to be like making these big ass statements, you have to back it up, man.
Yeah, it's reality versus showmanship more than anything.
Exactly.
You've got like you mentioned there, the blueprint was there with Chris Eubank. He did a post-fight interview saying how his son was my son is going to be Mayweather. But like, obviously, but there is reality and there is also commodity. And I think I'm not saying that Tunde was being too over ambitious. I think in terms of that timing element, he wasn't being realistic about Yarde's credentials. He's also his experience, because remember he didn't have an amateur pedigree. Not a lot of people don't know that, but he was actually from a white collar background. He wasn't from an amateur background, so there is a lack of experience there.
The major lad, and I mean, come on, man. Kovalev's been in there with Bernard Hopkins, bro. You know what I mean?
I'm saying.
He's been in there with like proper high-level boxers. You can't take a young cub like that and just throw him in there. He should have been fighting the likes of Jose Burton, Buatsi, Buglioni, British level. Get into that level. Make sure you're good to go, and then step up to European, then step up to world, because he's young. There's no need to rush.
I think what's interesting, and I'll let you finish, or I'll come back to you on the point. I do agree with you on that. I think on the performance we saw, it doesn't make sense why they, I don't want to say avoided, but why they kind of dragged their heels on the Buglioni fight. I mean, I know Buglioni was also, but I mean, really, they should have done everything to make that fight, because I think that would have helped him tremendously. And Jose Burton, you probably argue that, the intelligence, the ring IQ probably would have got the better of him. But the Buglioni one, I would say, they really should have taken that fight. You're right.
You need these learning fights, man. You need the learning fights. You can't just... I mean, even if we're going to learn anything from AJ's story, there's a thing where he was so much better than the caliber of fighters he's fighting. He got thrown into world level, then all of a sudden he's got to fight killer after killer after killer. Like, if we look at the reality, as you guys are like proper boxing purists, you look at the reality of Mayweather's career, it was built. They didn't just throw him in there with fucking Cotto and all these top killers straight away. They built that shit, man. And then by the time everyone's seen all the hype and that, he's already had 30 fights, you know?
And I mean, I think he was definitely in with some killers at the lower weights, but I agree with you. Once he got to sort of like your 147, I mean, he was, and to be fair, he was chasing them. So, but they were strategic. There's no two ways about it. They were strategic. And that's what you've got to be.
Sorry,
no, I was going to say you have to be, but carry on, bro.
Another thing that I would make as a constructive criticism is Tunde can't be shouting fucking lines in the camp here in a world title fight where the guy needs technical advice. If you look at the other guy, I'm not sure. That was Tunde, bruv, because he even admits it in the IFL interviews. Saying that, he was doing it because he knows his man, he knows what's going to hype him. Fuck that, bruv. You are the coach, you're the head coach. Give him technical instruction.
Ben? Is that what you're getting at? Do you think he bottled it? Is that what you're getting at? He didn't give him constructive advice, and that was what he did to compensate.
I wouldn't say that he bottled it as such, because they're in the ring and they're fighting. But
no. Tunde.
He just didn't do a good job, bro. In my opinion. If you look at a prime example, right? If you you watch that fight again, listen to what Buddy's saying to Kovalev and listen to what Tunde is saying to Yarde. And that is the inexperience in the corners. You know what I mean? He's there rubbing his chest with fucking baby oil, doing that lines in the camp. Get the boy ready to fight, man. I was fighting Pat. And I felt sorry for Yarde in that regard because he's not used to being at that level. When he goes to that corner, he needs good advice.
Yeah.
Lines in the camp, that's over, bro. That's dead now.
Yeah.
It's the fans that should be shouting lines in the camp, not the fucking head coach.
Yeah, and just to add to that, D, I think as well, like you know, you have chants and you have bits of motivation, but I think when you know the kind of kitchen sink is thrown at you and you've got to deal with the occasion, you've got to deal with the pressures of a big fight. I don't think Yarde doesn't particularly want stuff being shouted in his ear. He wants to remain focused. He wants to remain content with the challenge at stake. And I think he's probably looking at Tunde and thinking like, calm down a bit, like the energy's too much, there's people have vibes in the gym, but it's not also something you want 2 days out of a fight in Russia, something like that.
In my opinion, when you're going back to your corner, that's the chance to reboot. You need to be giving this guy, like I say again, Kovalev's coach, Buddy, giving him advice. Work the body, throw the jab, do this, pivot, go to the right, blah, 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 like technical advice, like while he's taking his deep breaths and getting his water and that, he can be getting his mind conditioned. I was watching Yarde corner, I don't know which round, I think it was round 5 or something, yeah? And Tunde was literally just rubbing his chest, bruv, looking him in his eyes and rubbing his chest. And I was thinking, I'd probably slap a guy if he done that, I don't like I don't want to get all like, you know what I mean? But nah, man, I'm just sitting there just rubbing my body, bruv. Give me advice, give me technical advice, tell me what I need to go out there and do. He needed the advice. And these are the things that we saw with Junior when Senior would just be sitting there, standing looking in his face. No, it's not good enough. Give him technical advice.
Nah, definitely.
That won't happen.
So, bro, just moving.
Could have done that, but he didn't. I don't know if Tunde could.
I think Tunde could have at least tried. And I mean, again, and I refer to Mayweather. When Mayweather's going to his corner, if it weren't Floyd Senior, it's Roger Mayweather. They weren't fucking shouting like little slogans and that. They do that shit in the gym and that, but when he was going to the corner, bruv, Mayweather was getting firm instructions. It was only by the time Mayweather got to like that supreme level, and I'm seeing it still would, but it wasn't really necessary because he knew what he needed to do. But when that guy was going back to his corner, Mayweather, bruv, he's getting sound advice, man.
Constructive feedback.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't be doing that because if that's what you're doing, then what's the corner for?
Not for water.
So you're part of the fight.
Exactly. So do just to get your last point or get your thoughts on this one. Lomachenko versus Campbell this weekend. What's your thoughts on that fight?
Lomachenko wins. It'd probably be similar to like Lomachenko-Linares type fight.
Okay. What you think Campbell can knock down Lomachenko?
Do I think what, sorry?
You think that Campbell can get a knockdown against Lomachenko?
That's a nice little spin. But mind you, probably maybe he could get a little knockdown, but come on, Lomachenko, man. I have to see him. Like, you have to go in against someone where you think, okay, he might lose. But as it stands, I ain't seen anybody that he's going up against and I'm thinking he might lose.
Yeah.
Put me in there with like fucking... Huh?
I said this 2-3 years ago that I don't think anyone at super feather, lightweight, or even super lightweight can touch Lomachenko.
Yeah, they're not touching him. Put him in there with like Errol Spence or something, you might see something different.
You know what? I won't lie. I do think some of the lightweight guys, but I know what you mean. And you know what? For me, I have to be honest. I was not against Loma because that sounds harsh, but I thought he was overrated. I still think they're a bit too high on him, given he's lost. So they've shown he's beatable. But the way he stopped Rigondeaux, I thought Rigondeaux was going to deal with him. But I know there was the question about the weights and blah blah. But at the end of the day, Rigondeaux got into the ring and he retired and he got schooled. So yeah, Lomachenko is definitely up there. And what I meant with a knockdown, because I'm thinking, I don't know, I just feel it could be like a crawler. I don't know, obviously Crawler fought in April. I just feel that this Lomachenko is good. I know Campbell is probably a bit more ranges, a bit more pedigree on the Olympic route as well, but I don't know, I just can't see him doing anything, if I'm being honest.
Nah. Because the thing as well that always sticks in my mind is that I've seen Campbell lose to less quality boxer. I can't remember the guy's name, but it's this black French boxer, isn't it?
Yeah, Mendy.
Yeah, and he got him out of there, man.
Yeah.
So when I saw that fight, I just thought, okay, this is what your level is. And that's no disrespect, but if he's losing to
Mendy. There is definitely shades of that Mendy fight where, you probably look at it, you analyse. Although Campbell's probably, 3 years on now, a bit more mature, has changed to McGuigan, I do still think that there is a little bit of immaturity there, in terms of, these massive fights, because he's never experienced something like this. All the hype is behind Lomachenko coming over to the UK. It's not about whether Campbell can pull off the upset, whether Campbell can nullify Lomachenko. Ever since this fight has been announced, from my personal opinion, I think it's always been focused on making Lomachenko a UK superstar. That's what I firmly believe.
Yeah, that's great points. And even more so because the thing is, and you're right, and it's like everyone's even forgetting the point of, obviously I know it's a split decision, but Campbell lost to Linares. And as you said, the Linares, for me, I mean, he put Lomachenko down. I think it was more with Lomachenko not being used to the weight. That was the first time I think he actually stepped up, I want to say, to maybe 130. For me, I just think, I just don't see how Campbell... I like Campbell. He seems like a really nice guy. I remember from the Olympics. But I just don't... not even a levels thing. I just think this is just not a competitive fight. And that's what I want from Lomachenko. So before I start criticising him again, I understand why they've made this fight. It's for the vacant WBC. But I think even if Campbell had won the WB somehow and had to fight Lomachenko, it's still not a competitive fight. So, it is what it is. Undercard, you looking forward to Fury Povetkin?
Yeah, man. I'm happy with Fury's move to match him, actually. I think that's good for his career. And now we're going to get to see what he's made of. So, I think that's a hell of a fight to see, man. That's a good look. Happy for the Fury camp.
Nice.
He deserves some spotlight. He's been in Tyson's shadow for fucking years, man. He deserves his own space now,
No,
second to that, man.
Second to that. So listen, Dave, we're going to let you go, but I appreciate the calling in and support as per usual. And enjoy the boxing this weekend. Cheers, thanks, bro.
Yeah, man, respect to you, man.
Cheers, respect, man. Thank you.
All day, bro.
Always.
Unofficial co-host.
Always, man, always. The seat's there for you, bro. Alright, take care. All love, man. Cheers.
See you later,
Cool. Yeah, guys. So I guess let's before last final minutes. Let's touch on this matchroom card this weekend. So you got Lomachenko, Campbell. Tom, give me your thoughts on that fight this weekend.
Yeah, just to echo what you both said, I think Lomachenko's got too much for Campbell. And just before I kind of flip the sort of question back to you, I think Lomachenko coming forward, I don't think Campbell's going to have it in him to nullify that pressure, that speed. I think even with his reach, a lot of people are saying, Campbell can use his attributes, his height, his range. But I just think against Lomachenko, man, come on, he's too quick. His feet, the way he even just adjusts his feet into range is just like, it's like a wizard. Like, you can't even see it coming. It's like a cockroach moves in and out.
Exactly.
You can't even see stuff like that unless you're born to be able to deal with stuff like that, like with some sort of computer robot that is able to take away a set of viruses. Do you kind of get where I'm coming from? But I think Lomachenko, I see him stopping Campbell mid-round. I think 6-7. I think the barrage of punches is going to be too much, and I can see him getting stopped on his feet, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with that. I think Luke, we can't forget too quickly how well Luke did and gave an account of himself against Linares, but I just think that Linares then and Lomachenko now, even though they were two elite fighters, and Lomachenko still is, there was a big gulf between those two. And if Luke was knocked down by Linares, I think it was the first or second round, and then he clawed himself back, but he still lost the fight. I just don't see what more he can do against Lomachenko.
Yeah, there is a big gap between both Lomachenko and Linares. I think you hit the nail on the head there, because Lomachenko's in his prime now. He fought Crolla, and years ago when he fought Russell Jr., these guys, Martinez, he was a sublime fighter, but I just think that he's making it look easier now against people. He's taking the piss out of these fighters. Like, he's hitting them with shots where we didn't even see that when he was fighting in the amateurs, because he's built up such a credible variety of shots. His tutelage in the pro ranks, his all these these preparations he does with like the speed balls, the kayaking, the outdoor tennis. All this stuff helps. It all increases mobility, increases coordination, IQ. ring and looking flat, looking lackluster. But he just performs at an insane, probably unnatural, instinctive way. Like, he does it just with the click of a finger. He throws shots and they're like, right, you're getting punched by 5-6 combinations.
I mean, you're right.
Pinging.
No, so carry on, Tom. I was saying you're right.
No, sorry. I suppose just kind of Campbell. Although, do you know what? Props to Campbell. He's done well for himself. He's won an Olympic gold medal, but I think Lomachenko just has all the tools to be a superstar for the next 5-10 years.
And I mean, look, I definitely. I think you've all said the right things. When I think of Campbell, I just think it's such a tough ask. I think Lomachenko is very good. You're talking about, even if it's, one of the things you said, a weakness for him could be the height, but he's fought taller guys before. Okay, the reach is quite long. If you think about it, it's probably the longest opponent. So it's probably the first opponent with the longest reach. You're talking about in terms of the distance, but that doesn't always mean anything once you've got a high IQ and you've also got the ability to stay in the pocket and miss shots. And that's one of the key skills, in my opinion, that Lomachenko has. He can be up close and he's going to be bobbing and weaving and you're not going to lay a finger on him. So actually having longer arms might become a hindrance because you're not going to get your arms, and I'm talking like real talk here, as much as when he's throwing shots, it could be easier for Lomachenko to counter those shots because, do you know what I mean? It's coming out, he's bringing it back, he slips, bang, he's thumbed up, he slips a shot, 2 shots again to the body, uppercut. So for me, I think, I think Campbell's going to be in for a very tough night. I think the home crowd might help him, but who's to say it's going to be a home crowd? There's a big Eastern European community in London, in the UK in general. Ukraine's not that far, so it's probably one of the few opportunities that the Ukrainian fans could fly over and get to see him and make a bit of a weekend of it. So, I think he's going to be in for a tough night. Great that he's headlining a card, but really, as I think you said, Tom and Raf, I think everyone's coming to see Lomachenko to just say they've seen him fight. So I'm going with a Lomachenko stoppage. I'm thinking probably 8th round, anywhere between 8 and 10, and moving on. So Fury Povetkin, what do you guys think of that fight?
You have to say on track records of Povetkin stoppage, but I still think that Fury's got a lot to prove because that stoppage against Pulev with the cut, I felt was a little bit harsh on him because he got that cut up the first round. Mm-hmm. So we don't actually know how good Fury is, but if you looked on records, you probably say Povetkin by stoppage.
Yeah, I agree. I think Fury definitely has a lot to prove, but I think Povetkin he punches hard, and I think Dee mentioned it. He's had a lot of time in Tyson's shadow, and although he's young, he's fought Parker, he's fought who else did he fight?
Pulev
in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
So I just think that although it's not a lack of experience with Fury because he's young, but he's still shared the ring with these guys. But I just think Povetkin, even himself, probably has a lot to prove because having to overcome the Joshua defeat, how much would that take out of him mentally?
Yeah.
But he still comes and he still delivers and he pulls shots out of the bag. That all it needs is a shot and the fight's over. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if this one's a boring one and Fury boxes to a decision or just Povetkin stops him late. I think either or is probably my prediction for this one.
I like that one, either or. It's only going to be one of them. But all jokes aside, I'm going with Fury. I think he's going to box Povetkin's head off. I think he's going to stay long. He's going to be at range. I think he's going to use the jab well. I think he's got good feet work, so he's going to circle Povetkin and use the ring. I don't think he's necessarily got the power to knock out Povetkin, but it could come depending in terms of how much punishment he dishes out in terms of consistently landing the jab. Maybe the odd 1-2 to kind of come in. But I'm actually picking Fury. I think youth should be on his age. I think he deserves. I think it's about time that he deserved a good fight, a good decision because the Parker fight in Manchester that was close. The Pulev, as you said, it was really the cut that kind of really made that fight go against him. He couldn't really see. Yeah. So for me, I think a good win is probably overdue for him, and I think this is the night we're going to see it. So I'm going with Fury. I'm going with Fury. So guys, last two. Tom, do you want to just talk about this interview you did with Atif Shafiq, and just tell us who he's fighting this weekend and what title he's fighting for, if you remember?
On the undercard, Lomachenko, Campbell, got James Tennyson and Atif Shafiq, which I think is a fight that's probably, although it's on late notice, I think Shafiq got the announcement yesterday. It's probably one of those that's going to go under the radar, but arguably could be fight of the night. Obviously, Tennyson fell short to Kevin Farmer for the IBF title. Shafiq is obviously someone that's had a few, interviews with us on the platform, so we wish him all the best. So I think just to sum up, it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a competitive 50-50 domestic affair.
Yeah, nice. Looking forward to that. We've got last caller 012. I'm going to open the lines for you. Caller 012. The floor is yours.
Joe.
Hello.
Hi, it's Joe. How you doing?
Not too bad. Long time. How you doing?
How you doing, mate? Yeah, I was going to say it's been a minute. Sorry, boys.
No worries. We're still here. What's on your mind? Question or statement?
No, I was just calling to talk about the Yarde fight. Sorry if you guys have already covered it.
No. Go ahead.
I don't know about you guys, but it bores me just hearing the same thing about being brave about a British fighter getting beat in a world title fight, because for me, a boxer, the standards they set themselves, the least you can expect is for them to be brave in a world title fight, the biggest fight of their career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if I'm honest, mate, I think Sunday, and to a degree Anthony Yarde as well, they've made an absolute tit of themselves, because although there was a stage in the fight that Yarde could have had Kovalev out of there, he didn't. And other than that sort of 60 seconds, he lost almost every second of the fight.
Yeah.
Just simple things. Don't get me wrong. I know he's relatively inexperienced, but if you're relatively inexperienced, don't sort of mouth off like that. Then you've got a faded old champion there hurt, and you haven't got the initiative to go to the body. Andre Ward made the blueprint for it, hit him up top, and then just nail him to the body. And Yarde just went head hunting, completely blew himself out. And then obviously, as you saw in 9, 10 and 11, I think you can probably count on one hand how many punches he threw.
Yes.
Yeah. So you share the blame. You don't apportion that to Tunde. For you, it's both of them.
Well, yeah, mate. I mean, I think Tunde's got to take the majority of it, because obviously some of the stuff he came out with was just borderline disgraceful, like the Andre Ward comments and things like that. But to a degragree, mate, Yarde's part of that, isn't it? You know what I mean? If you're not sort of on board with it, then you've got it. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, I mean, if you're not on board with it, go your separate ways. But I mean, Yarde did better than I expected him to do. I thought it could go early. I thought Kovalev might knock him out early, but I mean, I think Yarde's got to have a look at himself there and have a change of team. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think with like you said there, Joe, I think a lot of the narrative before the fight was, how is Yarde going to live up to the hype? They didn't mention a lot about sparring. I think Tunde came out with a comment and said about how he's Anthony Yarde's main sparring partner. And I think, like you said there, you've got to take into perspective, a lot of it is clout, a lot of it is talk to boost someone's profile. And I don't dispute, Yarde has got a lot of attributes in his favour. He's broad, he's got a good physique, he's someone that you'd expect to be on the billboards of a Nike advert or an Adidas advert, and that can actually fight. But I do also think that it was too early. The timing thing, it wasn't the right time to. Even though Kovalev is seasoned, he's coming on a bit. We're talking about a rugged Kovalev who's been in there with Ward for 2 12-rounders, has been in there with Alvarez, has been in there with other fighters down the years. So I think just overall, it's just a lack of experience really, but also the experience like you mentioned there, the lack of initiative to go to the body when he should have gone to the body, and try and just exert too much energy to the head, which is probably what tied him out in the end.
And that's what, and I think there's definitely on that point, as Kojo, in terms of the inexperience. I don't think he should change the team totally. I think he should. I think he should add to the team. Same thing with Joshua. after the Ruiz defeat. I think you should add to the team where there's clear deficiencies. I think you should do that. I do think, and it's kind of justified in a sense of, I don't know, justified is wrong. I think he's got to be expected that, like I said it earlier, if you're making comparisons and saying your fighter has better skill set than Andre Ward and they do not display it, you have to
There's not been a fighter in the last 20 years that's got a skill set like Andre Ward, bar maybe Floyd Mayweather.
But even Floyd Mayweather at welterweight wasn't as rough as Andre Ward. So I think you're well within your right to even make that as a statement. So I think he turned a lot of people off. I think there's one thing about confidence, showing your confidence, but that is just, you went too far. And I think that's where, that's where I think he's getting a lot of the backlash from now. Is because everyone's like, well, hang on a minute. You said that he's got a better skill set than Andre Ward. Andre Ward stopped this guy. And like you said, well, Andre Ward got knocked down.
Yarde, if you've got a better skill set than Andre Ward, and Andre Ward arguably fought a prime Kovalev.
Yes.
Well, Anthony Yarde didn't win a single round apart from the one that he had Kovalev out on his feet. And if you've got a man like that out on his feet, you need to finish the job if you've got this skill set. Well, where was this skill set when Kovalev was Bambi on ice all over the ring in the 8th round? So
no, I totally agree with you. So listen,
I mean, just off subject, to say that about Andre Ward, personally, I think Andre Ward is probably the best boxer all round I've seen in my lifetime. He could do it all. He could make it rough. He could box. He could punch. He could do everything. Andre Ward. And to say that somebody like Yarde has got that skill set is just is disrespectful.
Exactly, and that's the key thing. I think it's just the disrespect, which doesn't win you as many fans as the performance. Because as you said, he wasn't. He there were some close rounds, but he didn't win any. I would say on the cards he was losing, but some of the rounds were close. But as you said, we expect it to be you dominating at least 2, 3, 4 of those rounds, not just the round where you could have finished him. But look, before we let you go, Joe, just your thoughts on Lomachenko versus Campbell this weekend.
I mean, I think Luke's got his work cut out there, mate. The thing I don't like about Campbell, don't get me wrong, I appreciate how talented he is and everything like that, and God loves a tryer, but Campbell's one of those fighters, not too dissimilar to Groves in a sense, whereby you can visibly see the wheels coming off during fights, even fights that they should be winning. Like, I remember the rematch with Mendy. Obviously, he got over the line in the end and he won, but there's times in that fight where you can just see him unravelling. And somebody like Lomachenko, who's got the ability to just, change the tempo of the fight at the flick of a switch, I think he's all wrong for Luke Campbell. I think he's all wrong for him.
Yeah, no.
And Joe, just to add one last question about sort of the fight itself. Obviously, we've seen Lomachenko. He's made Rigondeaux quit. He's made other fighters quit. Like you mentioned there, he's unravelled. He's sort of mentally fatigued. Do you see any kind of reciprocal here with Campbell? Do you think there's any edge, or do you think he's actually mentally screwed on for this fight, despite the skill set Loma's got?
Yeah, to be honest, mate, I wouldn't like to say he's a quitter because he's shown no signs of it. Do you know what I mean? But I see the corner saving him for another day. To be honest with you, if the ref doesn't, because the thing is with Lomachenko, he can open you up like nothing I've ever seen, and when he starts opening people up, nobody's going to want to see Luke Campbell taking sort of 10, 12, 15 unanswered punches. If the ref doesn't stop it, then surely Shane McGuigan's going to, especially after the month or so boxing's had in terms of injuries and fatalities and so on. Like, don't get me wrong, mate. I hope he does the job. I'll be cheering him on, but I just think it's a bridge too far for Campbell. And sorry to go on a bit, but it's such a shame that in boxing you get people like Luke Campbell who really get the tough end of the deal in terms of fighting Lomachenko and Linares. Yet you get a world champion, I say in inverted commas, Tony Bellew or Anthony Joshua, who just get the exact right opponent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the manufactured part.
That's true.
This is what we were saying earlier.
Yeah, it's the business side of the sport, I suppose, but
but even on that side,
I wish him all the best.
And the thing is, and this is the thing, I do think, and you're right what you're saying, so I don't know where it's gone wrong, because again, Campbell won gold in 2012, he was the poster boy, probably even a bit more than Anthony Joshua, and you kind of look at their paths, and it's kind of like totally different. He's had some, I won't say easy fights, but he's had fights where, there've been challenges for him, and obviously he's clearly lost, and it's just not seemed to have gone his way. But yeah, like you said, I think all the best to him. We wish him the best, but this is a gap too far. It's a shame he's had to fight Lomachenko for a vacant belt. That's probably one of the toughest things you can do. But yeah, that's boxing at the moment. So listen, Joe, thank you very much for calling in. Appreciate the support.
Take care, boys.
And enjoy the rest of your week.
Cheers,
Take care. Cheers.
See you later. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. So guys, just quickly before we round off and then we end the calls, Buatsi's taking on Ryan Ford for the WBA International Light Heavyweight title. It's kind of gone under the radar, but I think this is a good look for Buatsi. You would imagine once he wins this puts him quite high in the rankings for the WBA. So potentially we could be looking at a Bivol fight. How do you see this fight going, guys? Very quickly.
Business as usual for Josh.
Yeah.
I think a mid-round stoppage.
Nice. And then we've got Joe Cordina fighting for the British light welterweight title against Gavin Gwine, 11-0, 2 undefeated fighters. I'll be honest, I don't know much about Gavin Gwine, but knowing Joe Cordina, you would imagine he's going to be able to put on a performance there. What do you guys think of that fight?
Welsh derby, and I think Cordina again has probably got too much in his locker for I can't remember his name.
Gavin Gwine.
Yeah. Gavin Gwine. So yeah, no, I think Cordina and Buatsi, it's a bit of a strange one with Cordina because I know he's had his injury problems, and I know they've put him on a platform where he's had the British shot quite early on. He's won the title. Now he's going on to probably European and world honours. I think they were talking about Patera as the next fight for him, who beat Ritson, obviously, for the European. But I think just the inactivity, I'm not expecting Cordina to be in 100%, firing on all cylinders because obviously the ring rust. But I do expect him to get him out of there. I think it's just his raw talent should get him over the line. So it'll be interesting to see. It's probably even more interesting to see how the prospects are doing at their stage of their careers, as opposed to just focusing on the three main fights on the card.
Yeah. And then last but not least, Charlie Edwards is facing Martinez Aguilar. He's the guy that Andrew Selby fought over in Mexico, and he KO'd Andrew Selby. So Edwards is having a tough defense. Aguilar is 15-1. Edwards is 14-1. So Edwards is 15-1. Aguilar is 14-1. So guys, this is going to be a tough fight. You got to give props to Edwards because even his last fight against the Spanish guy, that was also not necessarily a Moreno. It wasn't a tough fight, but the guy kept coming forward, and he showed some great boxing ability. What do you make of this fight, and who do you predict to win?
Yeah, I think I suppose Moreno was a stiff enough test for Edwards, but I believe Martinez, having beat someone of the caliber of Andrew Selby, is probably going to bring arguably his toughest fight today. Edwards, again, he's confident in himself. He believes that he can become a multi-weight world champion. To be honest, I think this is going to be a tough fight. I'm not saying that Edwards is going to have it plain and sailing. I can probably see it going to 12 rounds, arguably being a split decision either way. I think it's going to be a tough fight for Edwards. I think he's going to have to overcome some hurdles. Probably a lot of, because I haven't seen much, if I'm being brutally honest. But I wouldn't be surprised with there being clashes. The heads coming in close, especially a tough Mexican like him. He's going to want to, he's going to come in. He's going to want to force the pace. He's going to want to be rough and aggressive. So Edwards is going to have to box smart in this fight. I don't think it's going to be someone where he's going to blow him out of there and put on a spectacular performance. I think it's going to be one where he's going to have to box maturely and just get the win and move on.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think when you look at this fight, I think it's a great fight. You're looking at ages. There's not that much in distance between them. Aguilar's coming in this with really a strange but great reputation. He lost his debut fight and then has gone on to 13 straight victories, majority of those at KO. So I think this is a really tough fight. I think if people are looking at this as hometown fighter and not testing a matchman fighter, and he's going to be in some serious deep waters in my opinion. I think I've seen Aguilar, just the highlights. There there were all types of stuff with the Selby win, but not forgetting Selby's a highly rated prospect. He stopped him as much as Selby referred to the air and the altitude at the time. My point is, this guy's a tough fighter. He's a come forward fighter. Edwards is gonna have to brawl, not just box. He's going to have to brawl within this fight. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think it should be an exciting night of boxing. So guys, listen, we've overran, but it's been a pleasure as always. Guys, you want to just shout out the social media? So guys, just going to say social media. So it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all of the above at where, Tom?
At Raps on TV.
And guys, don't forget, we're going to be live streaming the shows to our Facebook page, so please subscribe to our Facebook page, which is Live Boxing with Raps on TV, and also give us a subscribe or like on YouTube, because it costs you nothing and means the world to us. So guys, have a great week. Exactly, have a great week. Tom, Rafi, it's been a pleasure as always. Rafi, good luck with your exams, and I look forward to speaking to you guys again.
Yes. Best of luck for Monday, Rafi.
Cheers. Take care, guys. Cheers.
Nice one.
Nice one.
He's taken another one, and Howard Foster has stopped it. Wow, that is going to be controversial.